All right, we're live. We are on. Everybody, welcome to No Conditions. My guest, this is Kristin Dahl. Thank you so much for coming in and hanging with me on this wonderful Friday.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's great to see your beautiful face.
I love you. So I was so excited. I'm so glad that you decided to do this with me. We were just having a little chat about, where we were going to go with this and what we were going to do. How are you and Jason holding up with this whole thing? Have you guys, did you guys go through the toilet paper shortage? I might ask first.
Luckily, we were stocked up in the beginning. There came a time where we started to panic in that last 2 rolls in the house, and ended up having to order some stuff online. And it was, there were some scary touch and go moments there with the toilet. But it was astonishing. It was just insane. We were just as surprised to see everybody.
Let me tell you, my bidet has been paying for itself in spades.
I know. Yeah. And we actually considered that too.
I tell you, we sat there when my husband first brought it home. I was like, what kind of lazy person are we that we have to have something where we don't wipe our ass? Like, this is to the point, that's how bad it is. That's where we've come. That's what we're at. And yeah, it was great. I love it. I felt sorry for everybody going through the shortage, but that happens. Okay. So how did you guys do? I see you have a garden. Now, I love that you post pictures on social media as being like, ta-da, look what I got.
Well, yeah, because I spent 10 years in law enforcement and I got injured at work, and my retirement finally went through in February. So this has been my life, is being home and gardening, and especially during this pandemic of not really being able to go anywhere. So it's like, I look like I've lost my mind because I'm posting all of vegetables. And they mixed with each other, and I made all these little hybrid crazy vegetables of squash zucchini mixes, and so it was entertaining. But that's kind of where we've at in our life.
Are you kind of like Weezer on Steel Magnolias, where you're like, I grow the shit, I give it away, and you just take it because that's what we do?
This is what you do. I'm a country girl. This is what we do. We grow our own vegetables.
I try every year. I think I know how to garden. I do really well on weeds. I go in there and like I act like I know what I'm doing, but I genuinely don't. Like I've spent countless hours on my garden and I got 1 cucumber. That was it. 1 cucumber. So I'm waiting. I think I have to get an ugly hat in order for it to happen.
Yeah, I need a little help there. Yeah, the ugly hat and the
ugly hat. Mm-hmm. Works every time.
I don't know. Help
out. So I wanted to brush a little bit. The reason why I wanted you on was because you had posted a thing about the Glenn County had posted. For all that don't know, we're from Glenn County, Orland, California. You posted a thing on there about mental awareness and the pandemic and people really not paying attention to, like, this is what sheltering in place has done is it's causing domestic violences to go up, child abuse to go up, ODs going up, and suicides, that really they don't have something to do. They don't have something to fill their time with. And I saw that you posted that, and I just applauded you for it because nobody's really talking about it. Nobody. So yeah. I'm glad that you posted it, and I'm glad that you did it, and I'm glad to see, because you of course you have firsthand knowledge. You worked on probation, all that kind of stuff. You had mentioned you worked for it in 10 years. So you've gone into people's homes and you've seen this. You have seen what can happen when we're not in a pandemic. So then when you have everyone sheltering in place, is it like a ticking time bomb?
Oh, absolutely. And it's not even just the sheltering in place, because technically we haven't been doing that for the last couple of months, but it's the media with that impending doom feeling, and that also our politicians aren't putting an end on this. There's no end time. So it feels like it's going to go on forever. And so for a person that has a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression issues going on, that that feeling of not moving forward in life is just detrimental to their well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And my experience, obviously, working in law enforcement, working in probation, with that, and then also I lost my own son to suicide in 2017. And so he suffered with depression issues, anxiety issues, and I couldn't imagine him trying to navigate in this world right now if he was having to live through this pandemic. It would have absolutely affected his well-being, no doubt. So it's, yeah.
You emphasize it a little bit. But like you say, like I said in the past, it's like a ticking time bomb, really.
Absolutely. Yes, and so as soon as I saw that that's what the direction that they were headed in, that was my first thought is, oh my God, what is this going to be doing to people's mental health? What is this going to do to our drug addicts? Everybody that needs that social interaction, that the idle hands are the devil's playground saying, and what are we going to do for just sitting and looking at each other and people being isolated, because that's a huge problem with people who are contemplating suicide is isolating themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And forcing them to isolate.
Mm-hmm. And also too, not knowing that it's okay to make that phone call.
Yes, because, and the one thing that I tell everybody, because people always ask me my opinion about suicide and signs to look for, and I tell them that suicidal thoughts are the best kept secret that anybody can have. That isn't something that's easy to talk about, and there's people that you would never ever believe that would have suicidal thoughts, because it's the hardest thing for somebody to express if
Mm-hmm.
that's what they're having. And so you have to look for these little signs and signals, like being that you're a burden, or feeling isolated, and just feeling like you have nothing to look forward to. And there's just those little cues that you can catch on, and some people express that and others don't. But there's so many people out there and so many parents that I've talked to that had no idea,
Mm-hmm.
no idea their child was even having suicidal thoughts. Mm-hmm. And in my situation, we knew that was a possibility because he was in this self-destruction mode with drug addiction and his own mental health issues. So we knew that was a possibility, but never dreamed in a million years that he would actually go through with it.
Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody ever does, to be quite honest. I think they kind of turn into, like one of my clients told me one time, they turn into the best actors.
Yes.
It really is, she says, have you ever heard that song, The Tears of a Clown? They're smiling one minute and they're happy and they're totally content. And she says, and then you turn around and the next minute they're just a puddle, and you don't know how that got there. She says, you give your kids the tools and you expect them to go forth and to, use all this. And she's on, really, you don't see it. You don't see the signs.
And a lot of the times it is those that always have that smile on their face. They like you said, the best actors. They hide that emotion. And very few people realize that Anthony had that tendency about him, because he was just the sweetest, kindest person, always smiling. Even though he had his issues, he was always this happy-go-lucky kid. And a lot of people, it took them by surprise.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, it's a good act.
Mm-hmm.
So, with everything going on, and like I said, people contemplating suicide, they need to have this goal in mind, and they need to have that next day to look forward to, the day after that. And they need to feel like they're moving forward, because that complacency and that stopping and doing nothing and just sitting and stewing in their own thoughts is what gets them.
Do you think social media has something to do with it? Do you think that, because it seems like we go through these spurts. I mean, do you think it's because we are in such a rural town that we don't have the busy, the stop and go, hurry up and wait, or do you think social media has something to do with it? Do you think it's just like a plethora of things that just kind of come together all at once, like a perfect storm?
I would say more of a perfect storm, because each person is different. Social media can affect others more deeply, maybe. But I would say in this particular time, like you said, it's a perfect storm. The social media is all gloom and doom. The media is gloom and doom, and everybody just has this, world's coming to an end feeling. And so here in our little Glenn County, since the beginning of the year, we've had 6 suicides.
Mhm.
And that's unusual, very unusual for us. And 5 of those were since the pandemic. And they were even during the time that we were opening up. So it's not necessarily, like I said, just being isolated to your house. It's just this never ending feeling. And these were people, not to go into much of their demographics, but I know we had one juvenile, and there were others that were kind of over that age limit, because usually suicide is a lot more prevalent between like the 12 to 25-year-olds, because it's that, front lobe part of the brain hasn't quite developed, so they make a lot of impulsive decisions. But some of these are outside of that age group. And so you think, well, there's got to be something more too, that it's affecting outside of that normal age group. And not to say that suicide wouldn't hit any age, because it does.
Yep.
We hear 60s and 70s. So it can hit any age group, any family, any background. There's no discrimination whatsoever when it comes to suicide.
It's pretty sad that we have more deaths for suicide than we actually do for the actual disease that is sweeping across our nation in our little tiny town. I mean,
Yes.
That's the sad thing,
And that's what's frustrating, and that's what I've been, kind of silently screaming about behind a keyboard is look what we're doing to our people. We're trading one person's life for another. Are we really making a change? Are we really saving lives?
Mm-hmm.
When, like you said, our suicide rates, we have 0 COVID deaths right now, which, thank God. I'm not, nobody deserves to die. I don't want to see that happen. But when you have suicides outnumber it by that much in this short of a time, that's a problem. And it's not just happening everywhere. And it's starting to come out more and more on the internet of being a problem. And it was a problem before this. Suicides have been on the rise in the last 5 to 10 years at just scary rises, and with different age, like I said, different age groups, females, because it's usually males seem to be more dominant, but now you see more female suicides, and it was on the rise before, and then with everything that's happened, it's to see the numbers at the end is just going to be devastating.
That's what, I've kind of thought about it a little bit. I've been, every time I interview somebody, I try and brush up. I get on social media. I kind of see where I'm going with things, and normally I'm 100% right. And I think it's from working with people all the time. I mean, I've been doing this over 20 years, doing hair, and I've only done this for a year, but the talking with people is interesting because I've noticed now it doesn't discriminate. Like you said, men were more prone, where now you see it, and we're not talking, the people that are losing their jobs, losing their homes. We haven't even gotten into that yet.
Yeah.
We're still we're still right in the middle. We don't even know how this is going to end and what this is going to do. And for people to know that, there is an end to this, and it's going to be on the positive side, no matter how you look at it. Anything's better than the alternative of what they say, and everything's fixable. I've always believed that. Literally everything is fixable. You just got to have the right tools, and if it doesn't work with a hammer, you use a chainsaw. You don't retreat, you reload, you do what you can do, and you stick to the fighting. And it's not a way of saying, this doesn't work for this person or that person. I think everybody just needs to feel something. They need to feel needed, wanted. It's always personal or professional. It's always those two things. They always need to feel something, and sometimes you just don't. I wish people would see that there is an end. It's okay. Tomorrow it's going to be a new day. And I know that's so corny. It really, truly is. You know, that's what one of my girlfriends was telling me. She's like, you know, I dealt with this. Her brother committed suicide. And she says, you know, I said all those things. He didn't give a shit. He literally gave two shits. And he just kept looking at us like, I everything you said, I've read in a pamphlet. Like, you know, and she goes, but don't you think some of it's true? And she goes, you know, at the end of it, I looked and I went, it does sound like the freaking corniest shit I have ever said in my life. She goes, but it is true. You know, she goes, and I just kept thinking, did I say it enough? Did I do it enough? Did, you know, she goes, we realized he had mountains of bills. And she said the same thing you did. This pandemic would have crushed him. She says it would have taken him completely over the edge. She goes, if it wouldn't have happened then, it would have happened now. And she goes,
Yes.
even if we said, this is fixable, we can fix this. Fuck it. You know,
Yeah,
take
because
the car.
it's a state of mind that they get into, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. And unless you've been close to that state of mind, you're not really going to understand, because it's like this feeling of, I'm a burden. My family's going to be better off without me. I just can't do this anymore. And they truly, to the core, believe that in that moment. And no matter how much their family says, you know, I love you more than anything, we're always here for you. It's really comes down to that person's decision, and that they're in that moment. And most of them are in that moment, and there's just no way of getting out. They feel like they're suffocating.
That's what she said. She goes, it's like quicksand. She goes, no matter what they do, no matter what move they make. And she goes, I know it's corny, but all this shit that I said to him, you know, he just looked at me like, yeah, I've heard it all before, you know. And she goes, and literally, it would have been fine, you know. She says, so what? Take the car, take the house, you know, sleep on somebody's couch. Who gives a shit? And she goes, and it was all over money. That's all that it was, you know. And it was just, it could have been an easy fix. And she goes, she goes, I had to let that go. And she goes, and now I see it, because I was talking to her that I was going to be, you know, talking with you. And she goes, you know, she says, it took a long time. And I said, really? And she goes, and then later, she says, you realize there are the tools out there. She goes, you can use them. She says, but when they get in that mindset, she goes, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, it's the guilt that you feel, even though I know I did absolutely everything that I could,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. But the guilt that you feel just eats you.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and one thing that I learned from my grief group, from a lot of amazing women who've lost their kids to many different ways, whether it was an illness, a car crash, murder, whatever it was, in our discussions, you as a mother just reach into the depths of your soul to find that guilt that you want to beat yourself up over. So no matter how they die, you're going to feel that just intense guilt of, what if I done this? What if I done that? What if I would have enabled him and just, you know, let his behavior happen, but at least I would have had that time with him, or I wouldn't have felt guilty for being using tough love. There's so many things that you can feel guilty about, and in the end, it's ultimately his decision. And as a parent, to let go of that you don't have control over what your kids do, is really, really hard, because they're yours, they're your children. But that was the grips that I had to come to. The realization is that I did everything I possibly could. Those were his decisions and his decisions alone, and I had no effect over them at all. And that's hard. That's very, very hard. And even as a family member, to carry that guilt. But no matter how he died, I know as a parent, we just carry guilt. That's just what we do, especially as moms.
Oh yeah, and moms especially. We hold it to the core. I mean, I know that when I say this, you completely understand what I'm saying. Is even when they're little, you know, you have that moment when you're laying in bed, when you have a bad night with them, when they're 8, 9, and 10, and you're going, God, I can't believe I said that to them, or I can't believe you know, what kind of horrible freaking person am I? I just did, like, you lose your shit. You can't help it. You know, you say something, you do something, and then you realize, you know, that they don't come with instructions. Like, you're doing your best.
No, my son was 21 when he died, and one day I broke down and just cried all day because I spanked him when he was 5 years old. I mean, you remember the dumbest things like that. And I thought, I have really lost my mind. Like, I was devastated over spanking him when he was 5 years old. And he needed a spanking, you know? I mean, he was whatever. But yeah, you think of the dumbest things to just beat yourself up over. But
our brains are horrible memory banks, and for some reason we deposit and withdraw on occasion of things that we're just like, where the hell did that come from? So where do you see this, like, you know, do you think it's important to get the numbers out there and get the crisis hotlines out there and to really hammer home to people?
Absolutely. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even, suicide was a huge taboo topic.
Mhm.
I didn't even really know very many people that ever committed suicide. A very good friend of mine's husband did about 15 years ago, and she had no resources, nowhere to go. Nobody had really talked to her about it. There were very few groups that you could meet in the area. 15, 20 years ago, it was probably about 15 years ago. You didn't have the internet resources that you do now. And so it was just not talked about. It was just like this quiet little thing that you held in. And now you can. Now people talk about it. And it's definitely out there more. People are more aware because it's hitting so many houses. It's hitting so many families. And so I think just talking about it more what is it going to hurt? If things are already bad as it is, how are we going to make it worse by talking about it?
Exactly.
Putting the out there, putting the messages out there to, check on your loved ones, check on those ones who feel everything, those emotional family members, those, sweet, kind, tender family members that take in everything from around them. Check in on those because they're not okay during all of it. And
I agree with you.
having that conversation and making that person not feel like you're going to be shocked or horrified or terrified when they say, yeah, you know what, I've been having some suicidal thoughts. I've been thinking about that I don't want to live anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes being receptive to that and open to hearing that and not making them feel like, I wished I never told you. And I think it goes with that. But it could be the 4.0 student that's the valedictorian of their class. Or it can be, the kid that struggled like mine did.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, there's no discrimination. So have those talks and not be afraid to ask them, how they're feeling and how this is affecting them. And like I said, it's the best kept secret, so they may not be telling you the truth. So make them comfortable enough that they can.
I noticed when I remember when my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia, and it felt like nobody wanted to talk about it. You just don't pay attention to the elephant that's in the room, that our family didn't know how to process it, even though he's alive and well and he's always happy, and in our family we deal with grief and discomfort with laughter. We always say if it's funny, it's forgiven. Excuse me. And I noticed certain family members, they would work so hard to look around the said elephant in the room instead of just facing it, head on.
Yes.
And I'll never forget one of our family members. I had made a very tasteless joke, but it was the way that I process things. And she says, so what are your thoughts on your dad having Alzheimer's? And I was like, well, I mean, the ship's already set sail. Like, he's the best secret keeper I've ever had. And she looked and was like, that is so gross. I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, what are you going to do? It is what it is. There's nothing. As long as he's happy, healthy, it is what it is. But then I started noticing the more that I talked about it, the more comfortable people started feeling to talk to me about it. And then they started reporting to me, of his going-ons and his day-to-day of when he was doing something wrong. They'd rat him out, But the minute that I started making it okay to talk about it and it's not such a taboo, the more people felt free to do the same in a respectful way, of course, you know. And I noticed, like, with the hashtag Me Too movement, you know, it was, you kept your mouth shut, you know, and now that people are talking about it, it's coming to the forefront, you know, and that's kind of where I was at. Like, it was such a taboo to talk about it because they just didn't want to get involved. And now I'm saying, get involved, break the door down at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, look, this is what I see. And, you know, everyone's so afraid of getting in each other's way, I think, you know, in certain cases. I know in some of these instances where it was just like, you know, I didn't want to be that person to say, this is what's going on, you know. That's what I want it to be about, you know.
Yeah, it is a lot of not knowing what to say, afraid to hurt that person's feelings,
Exactly.
afraid to offend somebody.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, there's just several reasons, and we're at a point where can it possibly get any worse?
Hmm.
Talking about it, you know, are we really going to hurt the situation by doing that?
Hmm. And maybe sometimes it's time to rock the boat.
Yeah.
I see. I don't know. I'm wondering if there's even an end in sight. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, do you think that we're going to be, you know, as far as this whole thing is going, the way that the disease is and the COVID and all this shit, where do you see this ending? I mean, do you see this?
I think it's when everybody has met their breaking point, and there's a lot of us that have already met our breaking point, and everybody has a different level that they can take. And so it's going to get to that point. I've asked that question of a lot of people: is how long are you willing to do this? How long are you willing to shut your life down
Hmm.
for this?
Hmm.
And we know there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of political nonsense going on involving it. So there's just a lot of people just questioning. You know, is this really what they're saying it is? Is this really panning out to be what they said it is? And are we really helping anybody? Because it doesn't look like that to me. It doesn't look like it's helping anyone. And so I think there's a huge segment of society that's tired of it and not wanting to live like that. And you know, life is short. I know life is short. It can be gone in an instant. And so I don't want to spend a year or 2 years, 3 years locked away in my house and not being able to do anything and running around with a, you know, mask on my face and never seeing anyone's smiles or expressions out in public. And I don't want to do that. And I think that that other segment of society that's comfortable with this right now, they're going to get fed up.
Hmm.
And that, I think things are going to change because they think it's going to be over soon. But I have my doubts. I mean,
I don't
it's just,
see this. I don't see this shit ending till November.
no, yeah, exactly. At least around election time, obviously.
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the media. You know, it. I think they have a huge role in this, and they have a certain responsibility, and I think some are taking advantage of this. I really truly believe that.
I don't see in history where the media has ever had the kind of power they do. They really hold more power than any of our politicians, anyone in the United States, any people. They hold the power because whatever they're reporting and how they're reporting it dictates the wave of emotion
Hmm.
across our country.
Hmm. And
So
people lap it up like candy.
yes, I mean and some people thrive and live off of that turmoil and want to have that in their lives, and that's a whole other mental health issue.
Hmm.
But it really is, they're dictating where this is going and how people are responding to it. It's a scary control that they have right now.
And
And it's
see,
just
I agree. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
just the accuracy of the media. There, I mean, even our local media
Hmm.
is really jumping on the bandwagon and reporting on things that aren't true.
Hmm.
And you have to really research every single thing that they put out there. And I mean, well, for an example, the article about our last suicide,
Hmm.
it had the most distasteful, terrible headline. And the way that they put it out there was to try to bring in all those conspiracy theorists who are going to try to say, oh, well, was he murdered, you know, and trying to fuel that race war. And they geared it towards that. So of course, that's who it brought out, all these conspiracy theorists thinking about, oh, it's just a big cover up. Our sheriff's office is covering up an investigation. It's really murder. It's not suicide. Instead of looking at, yeah, no, it's a really common way. It's really common how it happened. And to be surprised that somebody committed suicide, I mean, come on. But they have a level of responsibility they could have reported on, wow, this is the 5th suicide death in Glenn County in the last month. And they could have went with that direction. They chose not to, and they chose to go the direction of, hey, let's rile up all the conspiracy theories and start more of a race war.
Well, that's what sells. Sex and all this shit sells. And that's what they want.
Yeah, it's like 80s tabloids. That's what it do. The movie Idiocracy, you know, it's it's just, I never thought it would get to.
They want the shock. They want to be able to shock the people in order to buy the paper. And then, you know, it's a continued story. It's like a big ball of yarn that they can just keep raveling and rolling up and selling for the next paper.
Yep. It was our news station that actually reported this one and that's what was so disappointing, is because I thought they've done a pretty good job, our local news stations, reporting unbiasedly, but during the last 3 to 4 months, it's definitely taken a different turn.
Well, everyone's sheltering in place, so there's really no news. You know, there's really nothing, you know, somebody loses their dog and all of a sudden it becomes, you know, front page. Kristin grew the biggest zucchini and cucumber. We're going on.
On the news. They crossbred and I invented a new vegetable. I don't know. Am I an inventor?
You could be. You could be amazing at this.
And that of a zucchini.
Exactly. It's gonna make a hell of a bread. But no, I think that at some point when all the dust settles, you know, I think about all this shit because I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I say that, but then I'm like, God, I mean, I would give anything to be on the knoll whenever John F. Kennedy was shot. I mean, that's the kind of person I'm like, I was really good at Clue. I could probably figure out where those bullets came from. I'm almost positive. So, but like, it turned into this big, like, we forgot about the killer bees. We forgot about, you know, yeah. And, you know, they admitted that we might have UFOs. Nobody fucking said anything about that. Like, I just, you don't get, like, I feel like we missed a lot of steps.
And then there was a giant dust cloud that went over the United States that was going to, you know, block out the sun. There was this.
Where were we? Like, I feel like I missed a lot.
Well, I'll tell you a really a good example of where my mind has been and where I'm at mentally in the last few months is the other day I wore my workout pants inside out to the gym.
Really? That's okay. Yeah. That's okay.
I got done with the gym, looked down and went, well, that's just nice. And that honestly sums up my life, because if you could paint a picture to sum up my life, it's me going through thinking that, you know, I got this, everything's going great. And then getting to the end and looking back and seeing that my dress has been tucked into my underwear the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Secret time. Yeah. Secret time. And I have to tell you something. I fucked up even worse. I was sitting on the front of my porch in my said yoga pants, and I had my leg up, and one of my clients came up. It was my day off, you know, and she comes up and she's like, hey, I need to make an appointment. I'm like, And I noticed she was looking at me kind of funny. I'm like, she's just, you know, probably having a bad day. And she left, and I was like, God, it's awfully breezy. What is going on? And I looked down, and I had the biggest blowout in my underpants, in my yoga pants, with no underpants on. And I was like, oh, she probably thought I sat in gum. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, that was, I called my husband. I'm like, I hit rock bottom.
A whole new low.
Well, you know, she didn't show up for her appointment, which is weird.
She wasn't sure what you were advertising and what
I
you'd be.
know. She's like, Jesus, I just want a haircut. I don't know what's going on. And I kept going through my mind, like, did I say anything weird that might have?
That would make me look like I was,
I know.
and register somewhere for some.
I was thinking about that. But yeah, so we have all hit lows. We have all, I realized that sometimes I hate my roommates. Is my husband and my daughter. Because they're just, like, you just feel like, it, there were a couple days, I don't know about you, but there were a couple days where you're like, if I have to cook one more time, if I have to clean one more thing, and it's sad because when you finish Netflix, I'm done with it. Like, there's literally nothing else on there that I can watch. You sit there and you're like, Jesus, what would happen if we were in the 1800s? We
Oh, yeah.
can't even entertain ourselves now.
Exactly.
Like, total shit. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. It's been rough.
But it's good because it's just the two of you at home, right?
Well, it's the two of us. Yeah, my youngest son moved out here recently, and Jason has a set of twin 11-year-olds that are here inside of a month, and so we get a break from each other by having kids in the house too. So
do they feel weird whenever they pull up and you're like, people, come on in, come on.
Welcome to the boring home. Not a lot. Be inside or you can be outside. Your choice.
Exactly. Don't talk to strangers. Wear your mask. Yeah, the whole thing. I get it. I have a 9-year-old, and trying to keep her entertained is like, it got to the point where I think she was ready to leave. We weren't letting her be around my parents, of course, in the beginning of this. I think we all had that moment where you didn't know whether to really believe it, but you didn't want to be the goofball in the beginning that infected grandma and grandpa. And did you guys go through the same thing?
Oh yeah, no, my grandparents are in their 80s and they live out on a ranch 30 miles from here. And she hadn't seen the grandkids, any of us grandkids and great grandkids, since December. And she just kept asking, why hasn't anybody come to see me? And my dad would tell her, well, it's because they don't want to get you sick, because we didn't want to be that one to bring that illness. And so we're trying to protect you, Grandma. We love you. We'll see you, a couple years from now. And she was just devastated. And so I finally got to the point, because she just told me, she said, I'm not scared. I'm 87 years old. I've been through worse than this. I'm not worried. I want to see my grandkids. So I called her up and went out to visit her, and they planned a really nice lunch, cooked me tri-tip lunch. And we're just so excited just to see my face and to hear from us. And it made their day, and it made my day just to see her. And she just said, we're not worried. My grandpa said, hey, we're on borrowed time here. So yes. So
we got more behind us than we do ahead of us. Come on out.
At what point do you just say, they're in their 80s, they've lived their whole entire life. Who am I to say what they should do with their lives and dictate their decisions? So I left it up to her. If she was open to me coming to see her, then I was good with it.
See, I had a hard time with that too, with my parents. I didn't know which way to go with that. Like, they felt the same way, but I didn't want to live with the guilt, knowing, and I wasn't going to do that to my daughter. There was no way I was going to put that pressure on her or that type of responsibility. I didn't want that, but it was like trying to herd cats. Like, I drive by their house to drop off a care package. They weren't home.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's where it got with them too, is trying to pick a day to come see them. Well, we're going to be at the doctor's office. We're going to be at physical therapy. Well, we're going to be at the pharmacy, or we're going to be at all these places, and they're up camping with a bunch of people. And so they're out running around. And Jason's parents were the same way. You know, we told them, well, if you need anything, we can bring you food, we can bring you things. And, oh no, we just, you know, go early in the morning to the store and we're fine. And
oh yeah,
there's so much where they've lived this long in their lives. I think they can make the responsible choice on their own if they can, and if that's what they want, you know.
Hey, I remember one of my clients, she's in her 90s, and her husband, I said, so how's it going? You guys have been sheltering in place with each other for, you know, a month or two. How's it going? And she's like, I wish that son of a bitch would lick a grocery cart and get the COVID, because I am totally over him. I'm like, oh my. Oh my goodness.
There's that, you know,
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah. She's like, I would get it. If I knew I could be in the hospital and get a 2-week break, I would totally do it. I'm like, wow.
You know, I've been so frustrated just with all the bombardment from social media and the media itself that I'm willing to run out and lick a shopping cart and a doorknob just to get it open, to just say, see, I'm done. Just let me go. Let me live my freaking life.
Yeah. And that's kind of where we were at. I thought I had been exposed to it a couple weeks ago. And it's crazy how your mind works, because I went in and I got tested. They shoved it up my nose. You have to wiggle it around in there for 15 seconds. It's not fun. I mean, it reminded me of the gynecologist. It's just this way up. And so I came home and we were sitting there in the pool, and my husband looked at me and he goes, you know, because I said, if I come out positive, our life is going to change dramatically. I mean, it's already going to change now, because I'm going to have to, you know, get away from people until my test results come back. And, you know, I'm kind of worried about that. He goes, you know, I'm almost thinking like, I want to get it and get it over with. Like, why don't we just do it? And we were talking to a friend of ours, and he goes, you know, herd immunity, just do it, get it over with. And I said, yeah, but then you're gambling. And he goes, he says, we've had worse. He's all, trust me, we've had worse. You know, with this high of a success rate of recovering, he goes, you don't want to pay, you want to pay attention to the deaths. You want to pay attention to that. He goes, and right now we're at 0, you know.
Exactly. And it's just not seeming to pan out in the way that they thought. And it's just doesn't warrant what we've done. Doesn't warrant what we've done in the last few months.
No, I completely agree.
So far, I just don't think it has.
Do you ever remember a time like this, though, in your whole adult life, and even when you were younger? Do you ever remember it being like this?
Never. I mean, we survived, you know, I was born in the 70s. We survived the no seat belts and no car seats as kids. And we survived so much, and just all the illnesses that have came around. I mean, back in the day, I mean, I don't know if it happened to you as a kid, but back in the day when you would hear of kids getting the chicken pox, so the parents would bring their other kids over there, here, play with this chicken pox infested kids, so we could just get chicken pox over with, you know.
Party.
Yeah,
that's
chicken
how
pox.
I got it. That's how I got chicken pox. My mom found out that one of her clients' kids had it, and they had a big, huge chicken pox party. And
exactly. And so, I mean, you know, and I don't like to say, well, back in my day, but it has just become that society, this scared society of an illness coming around. But it's, I don't know.
See, I was wondering too, we had this conversation last night, is I said, would you take the vaccine if they come up with one, you know, for this corona? And my husband kind of looked at me and he goes, you know, I never really thought about that. He goes, what are your thoughts? And I said, I mean, my personal opinion, my personal choice, I'm not going to inject something in me that, you know, is not going to, we don't even know if it's going to work or not. I'm hopeful, and I think that I wish them the best of luck, and I really hope that they do. And he goes, that would be actually a really interesting debate on people of whether they're going to have it, whether they're not, is it available, you know, how it's going to work. He goes, I'm sure they felt the same way about chickenpox.
Well, and then is it going to come down to that our government is going to make us do that? And that's the biggest issue with a lot of this, is I've never seen so much government involvement with our personal health as it has been. And I mean, it's kind of equivalent to government mandates on wearing a condom.
Yep.
You know, are we going to get to that point in our lives too?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to be censored and you must wear a condom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of falls along the same lines, you know, and I'm not an anti-vaccination person by any means. You know, my kids were all vaccinated for everything that they need to be vaccinated for. But I think all the political garbage that's been hidden behind this, and all of the mistakes, the huge blunders, mistakes made by the CDC, and when it comes to counting tests, it's all of that together just really gives me pause before even, you know, allowing myself to go down that road. And I never thought I would be that person. I'm not that person.
I'm not either, I don't think. But it's a slippery slope, and it's a rabbit hole that I sometimes fall down, and I can't get out of it.
Yeah, it's different this time. It feels different this time. I've never been a conspiracy theorist either. It's never been, you know, I've never been that way.
Mm-mm.
But there's just so much nonsense and so many lies out there that are being told, and it's not right.
Mm-mm. And there's so much division. You know,
Yes.
I feel for, I truly mean it. You know, I said it on my Facebook, and I mean it now, and this is on video, so this is forever. You know, if you feel that, defunding the police is a good thing, then people need to unfriend me. You know, they really should. They should really unfriend me, and don't ever talk to me again. Like, I'm totally fine with that, and I mean it wholeheartedly. And it really doesn't have anything to do with my background with, my family being in the fire department. I have cousins, uncles, everything. I've never seen so much division in certain areas. And these are hot topics that have kind of always been a hot topic, but then it goes away, and then it comes back, and then it goes away. And it seems like everything is building up and picking up steam, instead of saying, well, that person was an asshole. I don't care what color he is. I don't care what religion he is. I don't care what he does. There are assholes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that in I can't tell you how many beauticians I've seen. Of course, we don't, carry a gun and everything else, but there are bitches out there that I wouldn't let them cut my pig's hair. But it's, I have a pig, by the way, so that's not a, I do have a pig, Preston, I swear, but I wouldn't let them do it. There's jerks in every single realm of life. And in the minute that we realize that somebody is just an asshole, the better off we are. And nobody is willing to do it. They all want to make something, and I really truly don't get it. I don't understand it. And they're blaming others for something that they had no control over.
Yeah, the self-accountability of people just really went out the window. And it's just, like you said, it's always been there. There's always been that debate, but the division that is going on, like I said, the media plays a huge part in that.
Mm-hmm.
By showing half of everything, parts of something, and gearing it towards a certain population. And it's absolutely dividing our country. And so then there's all these decisions being made about, such as defunding the police, that's being made off of emotions and being made by people that are putting no work, no effort, and have no solution. I've never seen where they come up with a plan and say, well, we have a plan. This is what we're going to do. We're going to defund the police. We don't know what we're going to put in place of that. We don't know how we're going to deal with that, but we're just going to cut it. And that's it. Mm-hmm. And we'll figure out how to take care of that later. Like, I've never seen people go with something like that and support something like that. It was shocking.
Were you surprised at several of your friends? Were you surprised? Did you ever see something like on social media of a friend's post where you're like, wow, don't they know who I am? Don't they know this is your life? Were you shocked by any of that, or were you kind of?
handful that shocked me that they would support some of the things that they did. That it just didn't make sense to support and to see things so differently. It was for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way. I had the same thoughts several times where I was like, you sons of bitches. Well, bye-bye. You know, I've said goodbye to friends that I've been friends with for 20 years. And, you know, I'm shocked at people. I really, truly am.
Well, I think, and not to delve too much into that topic, because that's a whole other
Yeah.
Topic to go into, is that everybody's speaking up from all over the United States, but everything is different in every state. You know, rules and regulations, laws are different from state to state, from county to county. I mean, so it's hard to, especially in California, our standards are a lot higher here as far as our minimum police training standards are much higher here than a lot of states. And so we may look at something and go, wow, why is this an issue? And why are they trying to do this? Because we already do that here. And then it's just kind of getting yourself in that mindset of, okay, what goes on here doesn't mean that it's going on in, say, Texas or another southern state where their criminal justice system set up a little bit different. And so it's also kind of being aware of that. And it comes from the other side, is that the ones screaming for defunding and change that are here in California need to look at, we've done that already. Since 2011, we've made huge, huge changes. Mm-hmm. And at least research that beforehand. And just the brainwashing and just the people that are just repeating what they're seeing on the internet and on Facebook, and they're going to die on that hill, supporting this topic they know nothing about. They have no experience from either side to base it on. Is amazing.
Fact checking. No matter how you spin it, no matter how you do it, check your facts first. I know that I am just as guilty. I've posted some shit where I later find out, that was a big fat lie. But at the time, I got caught up in my emotion. I got caught up in, you know, and some of it, you really want it to be true. You really want it to hold ground, and you really want to stick it to the man, especially the person that pissed you off on your page. But, you know, so now I'm very aware, and I try to, there's certain times I get into it, and then there's certain times where I'm like, I am not touching that with a 10-foot pole. But exactly. I'm going to get my popcorn, and I'm going to sit my fat down on that couch, and I'm going to get in there and see what's really going on.
Yes, I know, because some people can be so convincing with what they're talking about just because, I Googled it, and that's the information I got. And you can't do that. If you really don't have a place of experience, of personal experience from it, you probably just should shut up and sit it out.
Grab some popcorn and sit your fat ass on the couch and let the adults have at it and go for it. Because there's always going to be a Karen. No matter how you. Well, hey, we're going to wrap this up. We did amazing. I want to let you know that I got a hold. I want to thank Melinda Arendt through Glenn County. She messaged me some very interesting things. A lot of phone numbers. I'm going to post a link to this Zoom and also on my Facebook and my Instagram account, and also on YouTube. So everybody, this will be here. You guys can replay it. You guys can look at it. They have what's called a First Responder Crisis Support Helpline, and it is 1-844-550-HERO. That's for anybody suffering from PTSD, from any guys that are in the military, police department, fire department. You guys really need to get on there. Sometimes you don't see the signs. At least get the information out there. I'd really like for everyone to post this on their page if they could. National Suicide Prevention Hotline. We got 1-800-273-TALK. Easy, 8255 for the talk. 1-800-273-8255. Glenn County Sheriff's Office, they have 24 hours. They have a hotline there, the Glenn County Crisis Intervention, 1-800-507-3030. 3530. So they have State Friendship Line. I'm going to give that to you guys real quick. It's 188-670-1360. They also have, which I didn't know this, they have, it's called Crisis Counselor by Text. I didn't know that. If you guys don't want to talk to somebody, you guys can text home, and you text it 741741. So get on there and find out, and don't be afraid. Get on there and check it out. And I tell you what, we're all going to get through this together one way or another. I don't care how it happens, but at the end of it, we'll be better for it. And as long as we get the information out, even if we just hit one person, that's all that matters. So I want to thank you. And I want to let you know that I appreciate you. And I cannot begin to tell you how much I appreciate you getting on here and talking to me. And I love you very much. And yeah, so awesome. It was fun, and I'm glad we did this.
Great. I love you too, Monica, and thank you so much. And just to everybody, you're better. The world is better with you in it. So one more day.
You're amazing. All right, everybody, this is Monica with No Conditions. I'm here with Kristin Dahl. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Signing on, checking it out. You guys can find us on Facebook and Instagram. If you guys like to email me, you can at noconditions2020@gmail.com. And yeah, everybody stay safe. We love you all. And one more day. Thanks so much.